Well, now we finally have three main characters. This is our Bruce Wayne. Still, I guess you could say it's a work in progress, but I think it's looking pretty good. This is Dick Grayson, who originally looked like this. I was trying to do that thing where, in the animated series, something was mostly black, but it had highlights. But this looks stupid, so it's a good thing I changed it. And we have Barbara Gordon. I mentioned in Bruce's history section that him and his family were modestly wealthy. They no longer have that seemingly infinite amount of wealth because, dude, come on, Batman can only be so OP. By the time he's in middle school, or since this is the 1950s junior high, he actually becomes basically an assistant to his dad, Thomas, giving him a little experience with medicine and anatomy, which should come in handy during his Batman career. Eventually, at the age of 18, Bruce ends up going on holiday for about 3 years to study martial arts. More specifically, he studies Muay Thai in Thailand under instructor Mako, who is a badass in his own right because he used martial art to defeat some Nazis during the Second World War. And he's the one who ends up helping Bruce adopt the philosophy that the martial arts should be used for defense only, defense of himself and defense of others. Then for another 4 years, he studies the criminology so that he can become the detective we all know and love. Then there's this iteration of Dick Grayson, also known as the Only Robin. We're not going to introduce Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Stephanie Brown, or Carrie Kelly until later. Dick and Bruce's origin stories are pretty similar, but even though I already changed Bruce's, I decided to change Dick's as well. So him and his brother were adopted into the circus group and became the two Flying Grayson. And so that's who he ends up losing, specifically because of the actions made by the Penguin. And usually, I think Robin is 12 years old when he starts his career as a vigilante, as Batman's sidekick. But in this one, he's at least 15. It's only 3 years older, but I wanted him to be a little bit older, have a little bit more agency and independence, because Bruce adopting a 12-year-old as his young ward is kind of insane. Barbara is also a bit older, joining the gang at the age of 17. I think she's usually the 15-year-old. She doesn't have a history like the other two, but she ends up becoming Batgirl during Golden Age out of a sense of revenge, because she wants to give the dirty cops in the GCPD a taste of their own medicine. Generally speaking, she's going to be pretty angsty, moody, and just mad a lot of the time. Not just because she's a teenager, but also because her family is messed up. Oh yes, I didn't forget about Gordon's less than appealing attribute. You may have noticed that Bruce's skin is a bit darker than usual, and that's because Thomas Wayne is actually a mix between Libyan and Peruvian. So, technically speaking, this is the first black Batman, and his mother's side of the family is from Italy. Thomas was a surgeon like he always is, but Martha was also a nurse, formerly, and then became a philanthropist. More specifically, she often uses their money to help at-risk children. Amadeus Arkham and Cyrus Pinckney also make mentions, which, do we really need a guy to explain why Gotham is such a gothic city? Probably not. But hey, you know what? I appreciated it. Originally, there were some more villains who appeared throughout the story, but now it's been reduced to just 10. Of course, we gotta have Joker in there, whom at first adopts a different kind of mask, which will not end up being the Red Hood. The Penguin, Scarecrow, whose new name is Yosef Crane, Two-Face, or Big Bad Harv, which, in this iteration, he's not gonna get anything spilt on his face. It's purely psychological. Instead of Mr. Freeze, we have a more supernatural villain named Nitro. She is a spirit. Ra's al Ghul makes an appearance, but he's not some kind of immortal person with supernatural abilities. In this iteration, the title of the Demon's Head is just that, a title, and it's passed down from generation to generation. But the Ra's al Ghul who ends up appearing, and generally the League of Shadows, their end goal is still the same. Hush, or Timothy Elliott, and as explained in the other short, Prometheus, in Rebirth, and in the Golden Age, we're going to see Brayden, who is one of the dirty cops in the GCPD, and Commissioner Loeb. At one point, Bane was going to show up, but, Bane is boring. At one point, James Gordon Jr. was going to appear with basically the same storyline, albeit he was renamed Franklin Gordon, because just naming your son Jr. is stupid. We're also going to reveal the Joker's real name. Okay, bye!